Nottingham Forest 1, Arsenal 2, and we finally put to rest the demons of last season's defeat over at Nottingham. Now, this game was always going to be a very tough fixture, one that Arsenal needed to win. And the reason why they needed to win this game is because they need to keep up with the pace that Liverpool are setting. They also have to think about the fact that Manchester City are right behind them. So this was a game where they needed to make sure that the strikers are firing, they needed to make sure that defense is compact, and they needed to be clinical. The first few minutes of this game were punctuated with heavy Arsenal possession, and eventually it led the way to a few half chances by Arsenal. It was important for them to try and rotate the team around, and so we saw Smith Rowe get a chance in midfield, and I think it was very important for him to play because the way he reads the game is very different from the way Havertz reads the game. Havertz tries to contain possession a lot more, but I do feel as though Smith Rowe is more about forward progression. So his inclusion in the first team was important today, at least to give some legs to somebody who has been a very good servant for Arsenal, especially during Mikel Arteta's very tough time at the beginning of his reign. So it's good to see him back. Overall, I think that the first half was not the most entertaining. Arsenal did have a few half chances. They went close with a few shots. Notably, Saka towards the end of the first half had a shot that was cleared off the line, although I think Turner would have probably saved it. Now, it was also good to see Jesus back in, and he looked sharp. He looked as though he was willing to attack the game. And one of the things that we know Arsenal have been having a lot of conversation around is whether they need a striker. And the fact that the January transfer window is about to be closed, well, we can almost safely say that they are going to leave all their eggs to hatch in the summer. So the second half began with much more of an impetus from Arsenal. They attacked Nottingham Forest with much more fervor. It felt as though Nottingham Forest were hoping that their ability to hold off Arsenal would make Arsenal more haggardly in defense and would make them more desperate. But unfortunately, Arsenal were able to start cutting through them a lot easier. The first opportunity came when Gabby Jesus smacked his shot right off the upright, and this was an inkling into what Arsenal were going to do for the rest of the half. It was some good work over on the right-hand side. Ben White had done some good work, and the ball eventually found itself to Jesus. He was free, and he tried to sneak the ball in past Turner and the near post. However, it did smack the upright, and then eventually Arsenal did take the lead. Some very, very good play, quick thinking from the throw-in, but you can also say some very poor defending, because I think Nottingham Forest could have easily prevented that ball from getting to Jesus. But what made it even worse was that Jesus was able to thread the ball between Turner's legs. Whether or not it was Turner's fault, and whether he was probably anticipating that Jesus was going to try and cross the ball, whether it was his positioning, it wasn't a very good goal for Nottingham Forest to concede. And you can see it from the reaction of all the players that they had put a lot of energy in trying to keep Arsenal at bay. Well, it didn't get any better for them, because only a few minutes later, Montiel, who was having a decent game up until that point, was trying to clear the ball. It found its way to Odegaard, passed the ball over to Martinelli. Martinelli ended up finding Saka, and Saka was the coolest person in the building as he slotted the ball past Turner. Now, this goal was very important, because one thing we know about Arsenal is that they tend to of late concede goals, especially really needless goals. So a 2-goal buffer was important for them. And what I really liked about the first 2 goals were that they were not set-piece goals. Now, you can argue that a throw-in was somewhat of a set-piece, but it was very good to see them actually clinical. And I think some of the problems that have arisen from Arsenal's lack of cutting edge when it comes to attack has been a very stark contrast from what they were last season, when the likes of Martinelli and Saka were scoring at will. But the story didn't stop there, and eventually Nottingham Forest did try and pepper Arsenal's goals, and the person who you probably didn't want to see on the pitch at halftime was Awani, because he has become the new Didier Drogba. He just seems to score against Arsenal every single time, and I do believe this is now the 3rd consecutive league appearance where he scored against Arsenal. Some good work over on the right-hand side resulted in a speculative header by Montiel that eventually found its way into the middle of the penalty box. You know, Awani is a very strong player, and he was able to hold off Saliba and make a quick turn, and he turned the ball into the net. They managed to hold off Nottingham Forest after that, and I think if it wasn't for the fact that, as an Arsenal fan, your nerves are always jangling when you are in that position, it would have been a much more comfortable game if Arsenal would have taken their opportunities earlier on in the half. But either way, there's no complaints. We go to a very tough ground and we managed to get a victory. The only question is, how are Arsenal going to now approach the Liverpool game? We saw them rest Havertz today, and it was good for them to give Smith Rowe a run in. Jorginho came in for the last few parts of the game. So this sets up Arsenal very well for the weekend. This is a victory that not only speaks to Arsenal's resilience, but it also sets them up for a very important clash against Liverpool, because we've heard about the emotional stories coming from Anfield, and I've even spoken about the fact that, the league will miss Jurgen Klopp, but all that sentiment will go out of the window on Sunday. And Arsenal will need to show that they will go toe-to-toe with Liverpool. If they lose this game, it'll just further re-enhance the fact that Arsenal have just not been at the races with Manchester City and with Liverpool. It is very important for Arsenal to win this game, because I really do hold winning the Premier League title during the Pep and Klopp era way above any other trophy that the Kroenkes could deliver in the future. And one way that we could feel as though there has been some kind of repayment would be trying to win the Premier League during the Klopp and the Pep era. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think. How does this set Arsenal up for the weekend? I think this is a victory that is extremely important, a very tough ground to go. And if Arsenal were able to bury some of the demons that, they had last season at the Forest ground, I think this sets us up very well for Sunday. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you and all the support that you keep on giving me. And until the very next time, peace.